What's going on, YouTube? This is PNG Media News again, back at you with another edition of the Concrete and Steel Chronicles. Today, y'all in for a real treat. I got a gentleman that a lot of you all probably already know. I got Mr. Wacc Duce. He's going to tell you all about his life as a Crip who's white. He don't like to use it. He don't like the term white Crip, but he's saying that he's a Crip who was white. He's going to talk about his life on the streets of California, as well as inside the California prison system. Then he's going to tell you about his evolution to the person he is today. So Wacc, what's going on, brother? Thanks for coming on my platform.
Oh man, thank you. It's been a while in the works, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm good, man. How about you?
Oh, I ain't too bad, brother. Just trying to maintain. So tell us, bro, where did you grow up?
I grew up in San Diego, California. Spent a lot of my time in a community called Linda Vista, which is probably the most multicultural neighborhood in San Diego. You got Black, Samoans, Asians, Mexicans. It's really a melting pot, really.
Okay, and it did like those different races intermingle a lot, or they kind of just segregated to themselves?
No, the unique thing about my neighborhood is that we all grew up together and we all function with each other and all that.
Okay, cool. So I understand, like I said earlier, that you was a Crip. How did that come about? Was it a conscious effort you made, or was it just because that's who was around when you was coming up?
That's who was around when I was coming up. That's what the name. That's what was in the neighborhood. And it was not like you don't make. I mean, there's probably just people that make it a point of like, yeah, I'm gonna go be a gangbanger. But it wasn't never like that. It was more of like a family thing. You know what I mean? We all hung out together. We all, came up together, and it just, became a part of our lives. You know what I mean?
Okay. So when you became a Crip, and so how was it for you? Was it because by you being a white guy that you had to work extra hard to prove that you was down, or was you just accepted off the bat?
No, I mean, there's always, I had plenty of instances where they'd be like, man, get up out of here, white boy, get up out of here, white boy. I mean, still even to this day, the homies clown, like, man, what you doing over here, white boy? But just, I mean, it just, but it built, I'll tell you this, it built resolve in me, you know what I mean? And, but at the same time, it's like, it's not something that like they throw around the term white Crip now. It's like so generic now, where it's like there's a band of these white dudes at the Crips, and it's not even like that. You know what I mean? You might have, well, now that I guess there's a lot of youngsters that are doing it now, but when I was coming up, there was a handful of us throughout the California prison system. I'm talking about in San Diego, there was like 2 of us. So it wasn't like a big old culture thing. You know what I mean? It was just that's how we grew up. You know what I mean? And we just went with what we grew up. We went with who we grew up with. You know what I mean? It'd be different if I grew up around like skaters or surfers or you know what I mean. Then I probably would have adapted to that culture. You know what I mean? So to me, it was never a big deal. To me, it was never a big deal. It was just natural. You know what I mean?
Okay. And who were some of your main rivals in the neighborhood for the Crip set that you was with?
So probably probably my second year after I got officially put on, we started getting into it with the Mexican gang right there in our neighborhood called the Linda Vista Trece. And it's been on and cracking ever since. Even the youngsters today now, it's actually gotten worse today now, where there's actually been a lot of crazy stuff happening between the two factions.
Okay. Now Trace says, so that's a Sereno. Would they be safe to say that they're
Right.
up north Sereno clique?
Right. Okay. So there's
Okay.
So here's gonna give you a brief history on that. So as I said, my neighborhood when we were coming up, everybody hung out together. But what happened was when my neighborhood started, everybody was Crips, even the Mexicans. And this was like the late 70s, early 80s. Well, when they started going to the pen, and the Mexican homies would go to the pen, the South Side they would get to the pen, and the South Siders would hit them up. Hey, what are you? Oh, I'm from Minnetonka Crip. Oh no, you're Mexican, homie. You can't be a Crip. You got to come over here with us. So when they got out of prison, the Mexicans started up Minnetonka Press.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Got you. Okay. Got
Right.
you. Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit. So on your street, so running this. So what type of stuff were you into when you was on the street, banging Crip?
No, we was just when coming up. You know what I mean? We used to do licks. I used to do licks. I used to bang cars. Get into it across town. Go to crosstown parties to tear it up, to get into shit. Just being juvenile delinquents, basically.
Okay. So what was the first time you got arrested? I mean, arrested to the point that you were taken to the county jail, and what was that like?
So I got out of juvenile camp when I turned 18. And 4 months later, I went to the county jail for the case I went to prison for, was robbery and assault with a deadly weapon and a whole bunch of other gun charges.
All right. So take me through the dynamics of the county jail. So I'm assuming, when you get in, people ask you what neighborhood you're from or what gang you run with. So break all that down to me.
So basically I got up in there, and by that time you're gonna run into somebody that you know from the streets, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's whack," you know what I mean? "Oh, that's whack." Like from and so a couple of the Woods hit me up like, "Hey, Wood." And I was like, "Nah, I ain't no Wood, I'm on Crip." And then they kind of like give a look on their face like, huh? You know what I mean? And then I really didn't get into it with the Woods in the county jail because their numbers were so short. But I knew when I got across the street to the penitentiary that it was going to be a whole different ballgame.
Okay. All right. So when you was at the county jail, so you ran into homies that you knew, so they kind of vouched for you with the other Crips on the tier, and you made your stay pretty okay.
Right. Yeah. And San Diego it's big, but there's only 3 different Crip sets in San Diego. So everybody pretty much knows everybody or has heard of anybody. You know what I mean?
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So how long was it from when you was in the county jail that you transitioned to the penitentiary?
I want to say like 6 months.
About 6 months. And where did you land first? What pen did you land in?
Donovan, right across the street from the county jail, right in San Diego.
Okay. Donovan. Okay. And was that primarily, who was the majority there? Was it majority Norteños or Southerners?
No, there was no Norteños there. It was Southerners.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So again, same question. So take me through the dynamics. Now you're going into the penitentiary. So you have a choice to ride with the Woods, you can bang with the Crips, or maybe even claim just Northerner. So because you were from Northern California. So what happens in day one, you enter the pen after you processed and all that?
You go through like a little interview at R&R, receiving and release, and they ask you who you run with. And so I told them I'm a Crip. And I remember the sergeant looked at me like, huh? I'm like, yeah. And she was like, oh Lord, it's gonna get tough. And so they ended up putting me in. So from that day forward, whatever they put on that initial piece of paper that they conduct that interview on, you can't change what they put on that paper. So you say you run with the blacks, that goes onto that paper. So the rest of your time there is gonna be, you're gonna have to run with them. You know what I mean? So they put me with a black. You know what I mean? And it was, I got looks. You know what I'm saying, from the woods. I knew what time it was. The homies, a couple of homies came to my door and let me know, like, what's up? Like, I mean, you know what time it is? I'm like, yeah, man, all right. As long as you know what I mean, as long as you help yourself, we're gonna help you. I mean, we got you. All right. You know what I mean? But for years I've been hearing stories from the older homies. So this was not like it was unexpected or a surprise. I knew for a couple of years that, you know what I mean, if I ever hit the pen, that this is what it was going to be about. You know what I mean? And I'm not the hardest dude in the world. I've had my ass handed to me on several occasions. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I knew that I was going to be true to myself. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I had to wake up the next morning and look at myself in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? And if I would have went in there and I would have just went and showed up with a white dude and just functioned with the white dudes and acted like I didn't hang out with the people I hung out with on the street, I wasn't being true to myself. You know what I'm saying? And so um, that's basically all that went into the. There was really no decision to make. You know what I mean? It was I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna be who I am, I'm gonna take my medicine, whatever comes at me, I'm gonna handle it to the best of my ability. And
So,
go ahead.
oh no, so I was gonna say, so you mentioned take your medicine. So I'm assuming that a lot of the whites from the wood pile were constantly at you for being a race trader.
Oh yeah. I mean, so I got into this. I had a couple one-on-one fights with them, and they didn't like how I went. I beat up on the one dude, and then they sent the older dude at me. Now keep in mind at this time, bro, I was 18 years old still. So I'm 18, 165 pounds, something like that. Young street punk, you know what I mean? So I beat up the first youngster they sent at me. So then they sent the older, experienced convict in there. Me and him kind of thumped it up in the cell. And then they were like, all right, well, cool, that's cool. Everything's cool, you know what I mean? And then 2 weeks, about a month later, I got jumped by 6 Nazi lowriders in the Sally Court. And so after that happened, they hurried up and got me up out of there. And but I caught, like, during that time I was in the reception yard, I started out with level 3 points, and I was supposed to go to a level 3 prison. But the incidents that I got into while I was there on the reception yard, my points got jacked up to a level 4. So from Donovan, they sent me to Tehachapi, level 4, and got up there. Same thing, you know what I mean? And they actually had me as part of a group that was opening up was going to be a brand new level 4 yard. They were transitioning from a PWC yard, which is a permanent work crew yard. It was a level 3 permanent work crew yard, and they were turning it over into a level 4 yard 270. So I was one of the first dudes there, and it was cool at first because everybody wasn't there yet. Well, then it was crazy because it seemed like it was kind of a setup. It was kind of weird. So they were bringing in buses of blacks and Mexicans. They weren't bringing in too many woods, right? They probably had, maybe in the building I was in, there was probably like two or three white dudes, 4 white dudes. And then about a month in, they brought 2 busloads, and both of them busloads were nothing but white boys. skinheads, not you low riders. And so I knew then. I remember the homie told me, like, oh, shit, it's on now. And sure enough, you know what I mean? Not even a week later, we ended up getting into it with them behind me. So.
Okay. So now, when that would happen, like when you say you got jumped by 6 Nazi lowriders at that other joint, did the Crips back you up? Did you feel supported?
Yeah, okay. So look, let me tell you this. So it was during the day, and everybody was in their cells for the most part. Now there was were porters out. Porters are dudes that like clean the building, and all of a sudden they popped my door, and they said I had to go to medical. The CO in the tower, when he popped my door, he's like, "Go to medical." I'm like, "Go to medical for what?" And I remember the homies were, everybody was in their cells, and the homie was like, "Whack, where you going?" I said, "Man, he told me I gotta go to medical." The homie was like, they were like, "Nah, don't go, homie, it's a setup." I'm like, "Nah, fuck that, I don't give a fuck it." And I walked to the rotunda, walked out from the building into the rotunda, which leads to the outside. And when the door closed behind me to the building, the door to the outside, to go outside of the building opened, and that's when them 6 dudes ran in there. And that's where they jumped me. So all bullshit aside, man, I tell you this with 100% belief that the CO set that up.
Okay. Wow. So is it safe to assume that oftentimes the CEOs would play groups against groups?
Oh yeah, all the time. Oh yeah. Man, you got CEOs that talk like convicts. They call people Holmes and SA and all that, yeah. And to answer your question, so when so they jumped me, the alarm went off, they came and got us, they took the lieutenant asked me, like, what's up? Do you wanna stay on the yard? I'm like, man, put me back in my cell, man. And the next day they got me up out of there, they sent me to Tatchby. But the next day when they came up off the lockdown, the homies took off on the white boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you this. So in your time in the penitentiary, did you have more conflict with the guys from the Woodpile, or did you have more conflict with Bloods, being that you were a Crip?
Honestly, I had more conflict with other Crips than I did with any either or of them.
Really?
Yeah, it seemed like I don't know if you want to say it's just about proving yourself or whatever, but it was just I ended up getting into more fights with other Crips than I did with. I got into it with probably a handful of domos in my 7 years, probably about 4 or 5 different individual squabbles. We had a melee against the domos one time, but yeah, I got into it more with other Crips. Now, whether it was they didn't like who I was, or they didn't, you know what I mean, or the one homie Bosco, he's my road dog now, man. It's one of my best homies. He's out of LA. He didn't like the fact that I use the word, the N word, and I was like, well, I don't give a fuck, you know what I mean? So me and him, we went in the cell, got down, and then after that we became hella tight. Which I think he was just testing me to see if, you know what I mean, if I was being real about it, or was, you know what I mean, which is understandable, you know what I mean.
That's interesting. You mentioned that he didn't like the fact that you used the N word. So now, I take it you use that word a lot, just coming up, on the street, like you say, you mean harm, you just kind of use it.
I mean,
was there ever?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so were there ever any occasions that where you may hear a white guy using it, but using it as a, as a racial slur, and you would be like, no, you can't be using it like that?
Well, we all used to say it. I mean, under Samoan saying, Filipino, the Asians, homies be saying, we all saying, and it's like, you know, but you got some brothers, and I understand it, you know what I mean, and I respect it. You know, they don't like that, you know what I mean? They don't, you know, if you're not black, you shouldn't be using that word. So.
Okay, all right. So now I want to ask you this. Now I understand that there's a lot of racial politics in California. And then like, I didn't know during the 80s, well, throughout California history, there's been a lot of tension between Blacks and Mexicans. So, so when those racial conflicts will break out, sometimes when it would just be, you know, Southern Hispanics against Blacks, it don't matter whether they're Black as the blood, a Crip, unaffiliated.
Right.
When that stuff would happen, where would you find yourself in the mix? Would you be like, well, I'm a white guy, this don't involve me, or hey, these smashing Crips? So what role would you play in stuff like that?
I mean, because in prison I was considered Black,
Okay.
so I had to get involved. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. And I want to ask you something else. And from your observation, because I hear a lot of different things about organization of cars, like saying like the Serranos are probably, Norteños and Serranos are probably some of the most organized, the whites are organized, the Blacks are the least organized. From your observation, just being in, how did you view the Black car overall? Like what were some of the strengths and weaknesses of the car?
Oh, how can I put this? Brothers, and I mean this in all sincerity, and I mean it in a good way. Brothers just naturally are too strong-willed and too strong-minded to let anybody tell them what to do.
Okay.
So you got different factions. You know, you got Bloods and Crips, right? Then you got the 415s, right? And then you got the non-affiliates, right? But then you got to break them. But then you got to break the groups down even further. You got to go, okay, you got the San Diego Crips, then you got the LA Crips. Now you got to break the LA Crips down even more. You got to say, okay, you got the neighborhoods and the O's together. Then you got the gangster car, right? Then you got the Hoovers, right? Then you got the LA blood car. Then you got the up north blood car, which would be like from, you know, Sacramento, San Jose, you know, all that up there, right? Then you got the San Diego blood car. I mean, so, you know, there's so many different factions, right? And brothers are too strong-minded to fall up under a regime of something that they're not naturally a part of. So it's like basically it's like me as a San Diego Crip, I'm not gonna let an LA Crip tell me what to do. First of all, homie, you're from LA. Second of all, I'm a grown ass man. Who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Which can be a good thing, but a lot of times it can also be a negative thing. And so we're like this, man. And I don't mean to disrespect the Southsiders or the Northerners or the whites, but this is my thing. There's no way in the world that I'm gonna let a motherfucker that sat in Pelican Bay for the past 30 years that I've never met before, and I'm never gonna meet. He's not from my neighborhood. He's not my family. I'm not gonna let him tell me to go kill somebody for him and me catching life sentence. Motherfucker, I don't even know you, bro. You understand what I'm saying? So that's, I believe that's a lot of the brothers' mindset is like, we don't play them games like that.
Okay. Okay. Now, second question, kind of piggyback off that question. So when it came down, because I often hear, like when other people tell their stories, you know, the Southerner or whites telling the story, oh yeah, we smashed the blacks, we was always winning the riots, we was always winning the fights. And, I mean, I'm sure everybody wins and loses sometimes, but from your observation,
yeah.
No, I was gonna say, from your observation, how well did the blacks do when it would come to those riots and fighting and stuff like that? Did they hold the line? Were they down when someone attacked them? Did they retaliate?
You damn right. You damn right. Okay, look, man. I don't like talking about prison shit, bro, because I want to forget about that part of my life. You know what I'm saying? It's hard being the most hated motherfucker on the yard each and every day. You know what I mean? I used to leave the cell every morning and be like, damn, I wonder if I'm gonna make it back to my bed tonight. And that's how real it was, you know what I'm saying? And by the grace of God, I did. And I made it up out of there, and I ain't never going back. But the last riot that I was in, it was 70. Listen to these numbers, though, and I got the paperwork in San Diego to prove it still. I can get several homies that have read the paperwork or that were, you know what I mean, involved in vouch for it. There was 74 whites against 26 blacks, and we smashed, bro. Okay. Literally.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But don't get me wrong. I've seen it where some brothers run. Like when the Southsiders took off on us in Lancaster, some brothers took off running. They got scared and ran. But that don't mean I've seen white boys run. You know what I mean? I've seen Mexicans run. I mean, it's just, like I said, you know, we're just not as tight. They're forced to be tight with each other. You know, and you know they you know, you might have a Southerner, you might have two Southerners in a cell that if they were on the streets they'd be shooting at each other, but they're not allowed to fight. They're not even allowed to fist fight with each other. You know what I'm saying? Brothers ain't going for that. A brother will tell you in a minute, like, I'm not going for the cell with that motherfucker. That's my enemy on the street. You know what I mean? Right. So, but yeah, now that's, you know, I hear that shit, bro, just like I hear. The reason why I even came on YouTube in the first place, well, I would see all these motherfuckers talking about, yeah, there was a white Crip on the yard and we got him up, we removed him. Okay, well, tell me what happened after. Tell what happened after the removal. You know what I mean? Okay, so after removal, it will go down? Yeah. I used to tell the Woods, I said, look, you know, you're going to get me up off this yard, but I ain't going to be the only motherfucker leaving. This motherfucker, you're going to be leaving too. Wow, okay. So I got one more prison-related question before I shift gears, and I got to ask you this. So you think about all the fist one-on-ones, the jump-ins, the riots that took place at the people trying to get at you. Was there ever any time where you think, you know what, I should have just went on ahead and ran wood? No, not in that sense. Okay. But in the sense of there'd be times where I'd be like, man, what the fuck am I doing? But it was just, you know, I never, no. Okay. But I am who I am, bro. Right. You know okay, I mean? That's what's up. I respect that. Yeah. Okay. So now, because I want to switch gears a little bit. So you do your 7 years, or you in there while you're doing your 7 years, when did you get like, what happens for you to be like, you know what, I'm done with this lifestyle. I don't want to, when I get out, I don't want to come back. How did you start to transform from that, you know, convict mentality to, you know, say, nah, I'm getting my life together? I didn't, bro. I was still hanging out into my 30s. I'm gonna be honest. Okay. So, my transformation came mostly on the streets where it was like, I was just like, you know what, I started to see a lot of shit. And maybe I matured mentally, you know what I mean? I started to see a lot of shady shit amongst the homies.
Okay.
You know, I was just funny. I got over it. You know what I mean? I kind of like, it was just like, let me tell you a little instance. One night I was hanging out, we were hanging out on the block. It was like 6 of us. And it was crazy because the police rolled up on us and they just shined a light on us. And they were like, what the hell we see boys out here doing? And I looked, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? They didn't even get out the car and fuck with us. And then, you know, they turned the light off and they kept going. And I remember I looked over at the homie and I'm like, I said, damn, cuz. I said, we've been standing on this block in the same spot, doing the same thing for over 20 years now, bro. What the fuck, what's up with that? He looked, he's like, he said, man, I've been thinking about the same thing. I said, man, that's ridiculous. And then, like, I'm not gonna say that was like the life-changing moment or something like that, but it just made no more sense. It just didn't make sense anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you can love where you're from and love your homeboys and all that. That's cool. But when you're out there 30 years old, still trying to be in the mix, and you look fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
Okay. So after that moment, I guess I'm sure there was a few other incidents that compounded that made you change. Was there a thing of like, okay, Wacc not trying me down no more, or people kind of just wish you well, like, all right, you know, you're getting older, I feel you want to walk away from this? Like, how easy was it just to get away from it?
You know what? I've never had nobody say nothing. I mean, they're just like, I still talk to my homeboys to this day. I mean, if you go on my Instagram and, you know, or on my YouTube, my homies come on there and you know, I still chop it up with a handful, you know what I mean? And they're all in the same lane I am. Whether, you know what I mean, they're working, they got bills, some of them own homes, some of them, a couple of them own their own business. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Just trying to make a way, you know what I mean?
Okay, that's what's up. So basically, how do you so how does Wacc Duce spend most of his days today? You know, like what you into these days?
Man, I just got back into the workforce, man. I broke my back about 4 years ago, and
okay.
I used to drive trucks over the road. I ended up breaking my back. Couldn't go to work. I was in bed for a year. I gained like 150 pounds, and then all of a sudden, depression and anxiety hit me, and I just fucking. And then last year, my significant other left me after years in a relationship. She decided to get up and she didn't want to be a part of it no more. And so I went through that. And this year, man, the end of last year, I said, you know what? I need to go back to work. I need to, you know what I mean? I need to get the fuck up, you know what I mean? Get myself right. And so that's what I'm, you know what I mean? I've been blessed with a good job. I make decent amount of money. You know, I still pay for it physically because of my, you know, my injury, you know, the pain and shit I go through. But, you know, my dad used to tell me that pain is all pain is an indicator that we're still alive. He said the moment you stop feeling pain, that's when you start to worry because you're dead. So that's what I do, man. Take care of my kids. You know, and I want to be an asset to my community now rather than taking from it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. That's what's up. That's what's up. Okay. Well, man, brother, we about out of time here. My time went really fast. It was a really good interview. Now, I just want to say I really thank you for taking your time out your busy day to come on my platform. I doubly thank you for, rehashing those prison memories, because I know it's a tough thing. Like you said, you kind of want to forget this stuff. So I appreciate you to open up and sharing that with me. So before we close, where can people find you? They want to check Wacc Duce out. Shout out your social medias.
I'm on Instagram. It's w.duce, D-U-C-E, and then YouTube is Wacc Duce against the grain.
Okay. All right. Any closing shout outs you want to give out to anybody?
No. It's been real good talking to you, man. I know that we've had this in the making for a while now, and I'm glad that we've kind of be able to do it. And I do want to say something. I want to get into it with you with the Chicago scene, man. It's really a really interesting thing to me, man.
Oh yeah,
dynamics out there.
Yeah, I'm doing. Matter of fact, later on this evening, I'm doing an interview with a Chicago guy. He's from the Mickey Cobras. He's going to talk a lot about the dynamics that, from how it started to how it is today. See, a lot of people have been asking me to do some stuff on Chicago, so I'm going to be pushing some stuff out real soon.
Yes, please do. Well, it's been my pleasure, man. I appreciate you.
No, thank you, brothers. Equally my pleasure as well. All right. Okay, there you have it, YouTube. Another one for the, this has been another edition of the Concrete and Steel Chronicles. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next episode.